Welcome to the Brian Craig Show podcast. My name is Brian Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining. You know, this is a very important discussion that I'm going to have with you right now, and it's something that's got to be said. I am so sick and disgusted of not just the mainstream media, but a lot of the new media. You know, here we are, it's President's Day. And our favorite president and the greatest president, Donald Trump, he's president again, which is an absolute miracle. For President Trump to come back for a second and non-consecutive term, and people, I think, forget the dark 4 years between the two terms, right? They tried to put him in federal prison. They tried to put him in Rikers Island in New York. They tried to put him in New York State prison. They tried to put him in the county jail in Fulton County. They tried to put him in a federal jail cell here in Florida. They broke into his house. And then when all these things didn't work, they shot him. And then when that didn't work, they tried to shoot him again. And for him to be back is nothing short of a miracle. But we're in the beginning of the midterm election cycle. It hasn't really begun yet, but it's about to begin. And you have to think back to when President Trump came down the escalator in the first campaign. Why did President Trump do so well in the first campaign? Why did he do so well? I mean, there's a number of reasons you could probably list, but one thing that Donald Trump did from the moment he came down the escalator during that entire first campaign is something that no other Republican had ever done. And what that was simply this. He was the first Republican to set the discussion, set the narrative. What I mean by that is the narrative was whatever Donald Trump said it was, whether it was through a tweet or a statement or something in an interview that he said. Before Donald Trump came down the escalator, Republicans never set the narrative. They were always responding. And for the last 10 or 11 years, the Democrats and the Never-Trumpers have been responding, even during the dark 4 years of the Autopin administration. The Never-Trumpers and the Democrats have been responding to the narrative that Donald Trump set out there. Whatever Donald Trump decided we were going to talk about or the press was going to cover, that's what happened. And there's a lot of panic going on, and as we start to get into this midterm election season, we haven't gotten to the primaries yet, so we're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. This has got to be talked about. And what's going on right now with the new media, which is where it's at today, right? Not the old-fashioned media, the new media. Everyone in the new media is responding to what the other side said. You know, I announced this morning that unless there is some major news, I will not be talking about Jeffrey Epstein or permit callers to bring it up. Anybody who brings up Epstein will be disconnected. I will not be commenting on that. Won't discuss it. Unless there's something major that's newsworthy, but I don't foresee that happening. I always have to leave the door open. But no, I'm not going to discuss it. And the reason I'm not going to discuss it, there's other things I'm not going to discuss, is for the same reason that I just told you about. If you're talking about that, you're responding to their fake narrative. You got Massey out there trying to get this branding going. He's trying to be Trump Massey and get this branding going. He's calling the Trump administration, the Epstein administration, right? You saw this on the Sunday shows and trying to get that going, trying to get it. You got Marjorie Trader Green out there pretending to be the defender of women. Really? Let's talk to Brian Glenn's ex-wife and see if she thinks that Marjorie Trader Green is the savior of women. He got a homewrecker, okay, who took a woman's husband away from her, and she's, I'm the defender of women. I don't think so. Let's talk to Brian Glenn's ex-wife. See what she thinks about Marjorie Trader Green. You understand what I mean? So no more of this responding to their narratives. Okay? We've got to get back to setting the narrative. That's it. You know, anytime you're responding to them, you're losing. That was the main reason that Donald Trump did so well in the first campaign, is he was setting the narrative every day, for every debate, for every news cycle, right? And what's going on now is they're trying to get us to respond to them. And that's just not going to happen. And I'm not going to allow that to happen. Not on this program. I'll tell you that right now. Now, so far as these others, I mean, I can't control what these other people in media are doing, but I certainly can explain to you what, there's a lot of kind of desperation that goes on with people in all of the media. Like, as an example, right now, I was watching the news today, and they've got the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping story is just going on and on. There are no new developments. They've got this glove. We find out that they found, 13 gloves, like a baker's dozen of gloves, and the chances of this male DNA that they found on this new glove going somewhere are slim to none. But the media are camped out there, and they're trying to keep people on the edge of their seat because they have so much invested in this Nancy Guthrie story, and they have so many people out there on the scene. The media, a lot of time, and when I talk about the media, I'm talking about the traditional media as well as the new media. There's a lot of desperation for content among a lot of people, and they get bogged down on these ridiculous things. You know, what's going on in this country, in this world, because of Donald Trump coming back for the second term is nothing short of amazing. I was talking this morning and yesterday on the Marco Rubio speech in Munich. There has been, because of Donald Trump, such a global reset with everything. By the way, you're listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. I'm Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. And the Brian Craig Show podcast is available wherever you get your podcast. I'm on all podcast platforms. If you want to catch the podcast in video form, where you hear me taking live calls and get to see me and see the videos and such that I play, that's on YouTube. Go to YouTube and search The Brian Craig Show, and I'll come on. Make sure you follow and subscribe wherever you are listening. But, that Marco Rubio speech shows that there has been an entire global reset going on. And President Trump, the last week or so, has been taking kind of a low-key thing, and I think what he's doing is working on getting the voter ID to vote bill passed. And there's a lot of wheeling and dealing going on in Washington. This is what you got to do, right? We got it through the House. Now it's in the Senate. And, you got a lot of Democrat jerks. And we got Thune over there with the filibuster question and all this nonsense. We got the 51 votes. And Donald Trump believes, at least I think he believes, I'm pretty sure he believes, that the voter ID to vote is the most important thing he's probably done legislatively, because that's going to change everything. The Democrats are so overrepresented in every area, not just in the Congress, but in local elections throughout the country, because voter ID is not required. And this is going to happen. And the Democrats are in a complete panic over it. I mean, they've even lost their own constituents, right? Democrats are even, in the majority, are in favor of requiring state-issued photo ID to vote. And the Democrats are going against their own constituents. Why? Because they don't care about the vote of their constituents. They got other things. And this voter ID will change everything. Yeah, we didn't get the citizenship. You can't get the citizenship through right now, requirement through. That'll come later. But what this will stop is the ballot drops, because every ballot will have to have a state-issued photo ID attached to it. So they're not going to be able to drive semi-trucks, 18-wheelers filled with ballots anymore without those IDs attached to each ballot. It's not going to happen. It's going to change everything. That's why I haven't seen a Democrat running around in a panic like Schumer is since John Kerry was running around in Trump's first term trying to save the Iran deal. Schumer and the Democrats, you watch some of these pundits on CNN, they are having panic attacks over the photo ID. It's going to happen. President Trump has been spending all of his time on that. Now, I wanted to share this with you just to give you an idea of what kind of person President Trump is. This is what, look at this. President Trump issues huge threat to Nancy Guthrie's kidnappers. And President Trump said that if she is not returned alive, that the Justice Department is going to go after the abductors with the death penalty. He's like Mel Gibson in Ransom here. That's what you want. And the way that President Trump is talking to these Nancy Guthrie kidnappers is the way he's talking to people around the world. You remember with Biden, we know China. That American girl from San Francisco who's in the Olympics for China. Now it came out they paid her an undisclosed sum, believed to be millions of dollars possibly, to go play for China. China was buying off all of our politicians. Remember the Chinese balloon that flew across the country? Spined, flying over all the air bases with the stealth bombers and fighters, the ones that they used to take out the nuclear reactor in Iran. The Chinese balloon was flying over the nuclear silos and making an entire map on where to target their missiles. That's what was going on in this country under Biden. China was on the move. Now China's out. They're done. They can't buy influence anymore in this country and get their bidding done. It's just not going to happen anymore. When Marco Rubio was talking in Munich over the weekend, that was about bringing Europe back in the fold with the United States. And you know what? It's going to happen. There was a lot of hopelessness around the world because the overrunning of the illegals in this country is being done in all parts of the world. Even in Japan, they have this new Trump-supported prime minister. They're doing mass deportations in Japan. They have their own problem with illegals in Japan. I saw some video. I don't know if it was the police or their version of ICE, what they got over there in Japan. They had this one illegal. They were wrapping him up in blankets, and they said they were wrapping him up like he was a sushi roll and deporting him. This is happening all over the world. And Europe is waking up. They see what's happened to England. England no longer exists. And they didn't think there was a way around it. And look what's happened. Not only has President Trump shut down our border, and that's a very big border we have, the southern border, but there's mass deportations going on. And yeah, there's been some problems in Minneapolis where all these liberal idiots are and everything else. But outside Minneapolis is one little area, one little blue area in this country. Deportations are going on in all 50 states. And you know what? There's been, outside of what we've seen in Minneapolis and a little bit in LA, there's really been no resistance to it. There's been a support of it. The Democrats, the reason they're fighting this voter ID is they've lost their base. Over 80% of Latinos support voter ID. And about 74% of African Americans support voter ID to vote. They've lost the blacks. They've lost the Hispanics. They've lost huge portions of the gays. They're in big trouble. Their real constituents are these illegals that are being deported. And it's painfully obvious, isn't it, as they're in these hysterics over the voter ID. So, we've got to stay on message and stop responding to what these idiots are talking about. And stop listening to the Candace Owens out there. These are self-destructive, very selfish people who don't care about the country. They don't care about the MAGA movement. They care about themselves. And they're all in competition like they're in the Hunger Games destroying each other. But Europe is now back with us. And you could see on yesterday's podcast, I went through that entire speech of Marco Rubio, and they kept showing the audience. That audience was made up of European leaders and officials. And they were hanging on his every word, and they were applauding Marco Rubio. Europe wants to be back in the fold. They're tired of it. They thought there was nothing they could do to end this globalism. The EU destroyed Europe. Europe's basically been conquered in large parts. And now they've seen what's happened here in this country. See, the United States is back as the world leader. We had corrupt public officials and weaklings like Biden and Obama running our country into the toilet for a long time. We had 4 years of Trump, but then we had the lockdown and everything, and which caused a lot of problems in the last year or so of his presidency of the first term, and now he's back. And the United States is back in many ways, but we're the leader of the world now, and everything in this country is a great example for these other countries. Like, wow, the United States, after all this, they got back on track. We can do it too. Right? And that's the way it is. And the country is on Trump's side. Think about it. Next month, we're launching a rocket to the moon. We first time in a long time, right? Since like 73 or something. When was the last Apollo launch? Right? We got the 250th anniversary coming up. These are all things that are the country, the pulse of the country is behind President Trump, not behind what these Trump haters in the media want you to think. And an example with Trump is a great leader. Here he is talking about the death penalty for Nancy Guthrie's kidnappers. He is doing more to bring Nancy Guthrie home than Savannah Guthrie. I was watching. I wasn't going to play this, but let me pull this up. I was watching Savannah Guthrie's most recent video. Let me pull this up. I wasn't going to get into this, but I'll share it with you guys now. I want to talk about this. This is just very weird to me. This is the video she put up on Instagram yesterday.
I wanted to come on, and it's been 2 weeks since our mom was taken, and I just wanted to come on and say that we still have hope, and we still believe. And I wanted to say to whoever has her or knows where she is that it's never too late. And you're not lost or alone. And it is never too late to do the right thing. And we are here. And we believe. And we believe in the essential goodness of every human being. And it's never too late.
Okay. Obviously I feel very bad for Savannah Guthrie. Don't misunderstand me. But the way she's acting is insane. I don't know what's going on with her. This is her second video without her brother and sister. I don't know what that's about. And what's this, let me be your friend, to the kidnappers of my mother? Savannah Guthrie is a millionaire many times over. I've heard different estimates of her net worth. Some of them I've heard like 20 million, 30 million. I don't know. She's millionaires. Her husband's a millionaire too. She's worth many millions of dollars. She knows everyone. Every living president, including the sitting president, she could get on the phone in 60 seconds if she wanted to. Why is she out there? Please, please. President Trump's talking about if she doesn't come home alive, we're coming after you with the death penalty. And she's out there, please, please, we like you, we love you, kidnappers. Why is Savannah Guthrie making Instagram videos instead of being on television, by the way, with some makeup on, offering a $1 million reward in cash to anyone who gives information leading to the return of her mother and the capture of the kidnappers? If you successfully lead us to that monster, I'm talking about on television. Remember I mentioned Mel Gibson and Ransom? Remember Ransom? Hey, I don't have the resources that Savannah Guthrie does or the contacts. But if I were in her position and my mother had been kidnapped, I'd be on television. And by the way, I'd probably be on television with the President of the United States, and I would have at least $1 million or $10 million. She could raise $10 million with her friends. President Trump would probably put the money together himself if she asked. And I would be on television with the President of the United States and the cops and everybody else involved, and I'd have all the money, the $1 million, the $10 million, however it was, in front of me. This money is yours. No questions asked. If you give us information that leads us to that monster at my mom's front door and we bring them to justice and she's returned. This money is yours. Cash. None of this, we love you and we want to be your friend. What is going on with Savannah Guthrie? I feel very sorry for her and her family, don't get me wrong, but she's not acting like a normal person. But then again, maybe she's acting like a liberal. Maybe this is her liberalism. I was talking to my wife about this. What she's doing here is not just let me be your friend. She's trying to manifest mom home as opposed to doing something about it. And let me tell you, whoever was involved in this, people know who that is. These are criminal people. All those people care about is money, money, money. And if she went on television with that cash money, $1 million or more, on a table with the president or the sheriff or cash or whoever else, and made that offer, they would have that person at the front door within 24 hours, maybe even less. All those people care about are money. I don't care about Harvey Levin over at TMZ playing around with a bunch of fake emails with some Bitcoin scam going on. It's ridiculous. Got a fourth email at TMZ. She was taken to Mexico. Maybe they're close to Mexico, but all those people care about is money. And money is what gets these criminals to turn on each other. There are many people that know that person at the door who recognize them based on the clothing, their stance, and everything else. But why should they come forward? Savannah Guthrie isn't offering them anything other than she wants to be their friend. She looks like hell, and I know you can tell she's going through a lot. I'm not saying that, I know a lot of people are talking about conspiracies. Who knows? I know this. I saw a lawn guy doing lawn work in the backyard today on television of Nancy Guthrie's home. What the heck is that all about? Isn't it bad enough that they let the crime scene be tainted by not closing it off and letting people from the media go up? Who knows even who went inside the house, but the media were going up to the front porch and everything. No, the way she's handling this is just weird to me. When these incidents happen, most of us don't have the resources or connections that Savannah Guthrie have. There was a celebrity, Frank Sinatra Jr. was kidnapped, and Frank Sinatra got him back. They got those guys too, but because he had the money and he did it, and he used his celebrity. Celebrity is a very powerful thing. You've got the power of celebrity. You've got the money. You could raise the money. NBC would probably put up the money. But she's got the money, but she could raise the money. I saw on X a little while ago, someone put a GoFundMe to try to raise money to buy that Bitcoin that emailer's talking to TMZ about all the time. You don't need a GoFundMe. You're talking about people that are worth $30, $40 million, maybe even more. Her husband's a very well-connected guy. I know that if my mother had been kidnapped and was missing for 2-3 weeks and I had the money and the resources that Savannah Guthrie have, it'd be a whole nother thing. And I think that's true for most of you out there too. But maybe this is how liberals operate. The way this please be our friend is kind of how liberals react a lot, right? Remember after 9/11 how liberals reacted? Remember? Bill Clinton, miracle, many liberals. They were asking these questions. What did we do that caused them to hijack these planes and knock these buildings down? Remember that? Liberals are always sympathetic towards criminals, evildoers, that George W. Bush used to call them. They always are. And because of that, look at what's happened in New York where they have the no bail. Mom Donnie's trying to get some people out of jail, I was reading over the weekend. liberals really, they have almost a fetish for criminals, and you see that with this. But let me just say this as we end the first segment: is moving forward, it's very important for us. Okay, moving forward, it's very important for us to stop responding to what the other side's talking about. We set the narrative. The economy's booming right now. Right? The illegal drugs have almost been totally cut off. Look at this thing where they closed down that airspace in Texas the other day. That was to stop the cartel drones that were flying over. That was part of the war on drugs. That's where they've been bringing the drugs through by land, and they've been using the drones to give them cover. President Trump just shut that down. Right? Borders shut. The illegal drugs from the cartels are hardly coming in any longer. These are amazing things that's going on. We are doing so much. And all of this crap that's being promoted in the media is all because they're in a panic over the voter ID. That's going to pass. That is going to be a reality. President Trump said he'll do it without Congress, and it's going to be in effect come this midterm election season. State-issued voter ID required to vote. Now, if you'd like to call in, please do. The number is toll-free, as always. You're welcome to call in. 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call. If you're watching live on YouTube, the number is pinned in the live chat. 888-465-2631. We'll take a quick break and be right back. We're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, this is Hank from Hollywood. How you doing?
All right, Hank. What's on your mind?
I called Tom Laporta at Tom Laporta Roofing. He sent out Scott. Now, Scott is absolutely the best. Scott and Scott's crew are the absolute best. They gave me a great price. They did the job when they said they were going to do it. They finished the job when they said they were going to do it. The materials they used, absolutely the best. I want to thank Tom. I definitely want to thank Scott, and definitely want to thank Scott's crew. These people are number one, and I just want your listeners to know, Tom Laporta at Tom Laporta Roofing. If you need a new roof, call Tom at Tom Laporta Roofing. You're not going to go wrong. You're not going to be disappointed.
Do what Hank did. Call Tom Laporta at Laporta Roofing on his cell phone, 954-604-4602, 954-604-4602, and online, laportaroofing.com. On the line, we have Frank. He's a listener, and he's a client of Jupiter Joe Thomas. Frank, welcome. So, Frank, could you tell me how Jupiter Joe Thomas helped you?
What he's advertising today and putting out there is a fantastic product for people like me, and there's millions of people like me that want a good, sound investment, and they want a good, sound, caring, loving investment advisor, and that's Jupiter Joe. He's in the business for like 30 years, and he knows his business. Him and his family make you feel so comfortable. You sit down, and he gives you a real full analysis of what's going on and what he has to offer. And I got into these income streams, these streaming products, and I jumped on it right away. And when he told me what I'm going to get, and I'm getting it right now, and on one of them, I was amazed. He doubled what this other so-called investment advisor was offering me, and I'm jumping for joy.
Do what Frank did. Call Jupiter Joe Thomas right now. Schedule your no-charge consultation. Talk to Joe Thomas about annuities and be guaranteed income every month for the rest of your life. 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999 and online, jupiterjoe.com.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard MyPillows, regular $49.98, On sale for $17.98. Wait on it. Mega sale only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
All right, welcome back. And this free shipping offer at MyPillow will end without notice. It's free shipping on every order, no matter how small, no matter how large, and anywhere in between. Use our promo code KANE at checkout, KANE, at mypillow.com. You can also order by phone, toll-free, 800-716-4879, 800-716-4879. Promo code KANE, KANE. All right, welcome back, everyone. It is the Brian Craig Show podcast. So Rosie O'Donnell has come back to the United States. That's the second, right? Ellen came back a couple weeks ago, and now Rosie O'Donnell came back. Now, Rosie O'Donnell came back for the same reason as Ellen. You know why that is? Why do you think? Ellen DeGeneres went to England. Rosie O'Donnell went to Ireland. They're both in the UK. Why did they both return? It was for the same reason. You know why? They're not celebrities in the UK. Nobody knows who they are, right? So they're not used to walking around and it's Rosie O'Donnell, it's Rosie, or it's Ellen, it's Ellen. They can't live that way anymore. Being normal. So they came back here where people will recognize them. But I give you an example what I was, by the way, it's, what an embarrassment, right? Because both of them, especially Rosie, made such a big deal that they had to flee, that they didn't feel safe here. Of course, now Rosie is saying she's just feeling it out to see if it's safe. Oh, my goodness. It's amazing to me. President Trump saved us from so many things, but one of the things he saved us from was from tyranny. You know, if Biden would have stayed as the autopin president, or Willie Brown's girlfriend, Kamala Harris, would have become president, we would have lost our First Amendment. I've talked about this a lot. Their plan was to declare the MAGA movement a domestic hate group terrorist organization and outlaw it. You know, this Trump 2028 hat I'm wearing right now, or a Make America Great Again hat, those would have been illegal. That was their plan. There have been a lot of other problems too. But look at this. Teacher fired for two-word message supporting ICE agents. What? Federal agents, they're cops. A longtime Chicago area gym teacher says he was forced out of his job after posting a two-word message backing federal immigration enforcement, calling the fallout devastating and surreal. He's a veteran teacher. All he wrote was, "Go ICE." He's out of work now. He got in more trouble for saying "Go ICE" than if he was caught having sex with a student. It's not an exaggeration, because if he got caught having sex with a student, he'd have the teachers union behind him. They eventually would face some justice, but not this quick. That's how the whole country was going to be. We weren't just going to be overrun and taken over by illegals, because we certainly would have. You know, the 25 million that Obama, it was Obama really running it, but that Biden brought in, there would have been another 50 million within the first year. That would have been it. President Trump would be in jail somewhere without Secret Service protection, because Kamala Harris would have taken that away from him. And he'd be in jail, and the country would have been completely taken over and invaded. But a teacher, the message of a teacher when it involves police is supposed to be pro-police, ICE or police. But this is, look at this. Florida Teachers Union said children protesting ICE is required. It's a story in the Gateway Pundit. You can read the whole story. And if you've noticed, around the country, there have been these student-led ICE protests in high schools. And what's happened is, since the 60s, really, because it really began during the Vietnam era, but since the 60s until now, we've always assumed that when kids go to college, the teachers are liberal, the professors are liberal. We call the universities liberal indoctrination centers, and all this liberal garbage is, they wash their brains with it, and you get a lot of liberal idiots coming out of college. And then you think, well, once they get out in the real world and start paying taxes and see the way the world really is, they'll grow up and they'll wake up. But now what they've done in the last few years is that indoctrination in the colleges they brought to the public schools, right? And not only have I been seeing these anti-ICE protests at high schools on social media all over the country the last couple of months. In Minneapolis, they raised the Somalian flag on the flagpole at a local high school in Minneapolis. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So the college brainwashing is now going on much younger in high schools. Bad enough they got the media and everything. And a lot of this is our fault because we haven't put an emphasis on recruiting people to become school teachers. And I've been calling for that for years and years and years. But if Charlie Kirk had not been assassinated by the Never Trumpers, this would have stopped. Charlie Kirk with Turning Point wasn't just at college campuses. They were at high school campuses, and they were growing at high school campuses. See, and this is one of the reasons, there are a few reasons, but the main one, they assassinated Charlie Kirk. The main reason they assassinated Charlie Kirk is because he was organizing young people, and they were waking up and being red-pilled and were becoming MAGA by the millions, with high school chapters of Turning Point springing up all over the country. And if you remember, right after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, there were all these sign-ups and adults wanted to start chapters. Have you heard of any adult Turning Point chapters starting up? No. And these high school protests that have been going on, Charlie Kirk would have been addressing this at the schools he was at, and he's not here to do it anymore. And we haven't had anybody to pick up the work really long term. There's been a couple of moments here and there, but nobody's really been able to pick up where he left off for a lot of reasons. But a lot of it is what I started talking about at the beginning of the show, that we're letting the Never Trumpers and the left decide what the narrative is. I've seen some of these kids do walkouts against ICE. The teachers union, one of the biggest gripes the teachers union had over the years around the country is overcrowding of schools. Well, what better way to reduce overcrowding in schools than deport all the illegal students that are there? We're in a phase in this country with the Democrats where the Democrats are in a complete panic because they know that the SAVE Act, with state-issued voter ID as a requirement to vote, the Democrats view that as they're never going to be able to win a national election again. That doesn't mean they're not going to be able to hold on to California and New York for a while, but even that'll start to fade away. They know they're no longer going to be able to hold power. And their big hope was AOC. And AOC, I'm not going to play the clips of AOC because I played some of them over the weekend and there's some more. AOC, this is amazing what happened with AOC because I told you guys when she first got elected to the House that they're planning on running her for president, and now it's been actually talked about. They sent her off to Munich so she could impress the world with her international policy expertise. And what happened? She didn't know about Hong Kong. The one that came out today is she was talking about Venezuela being south of the equator. Venezuela is the northern tip of South America. It's north of the equator. She made this ridiculous comment about when Marco Rubio said that the Spaniards gave us the American cowboy. And she said, well, the Mexicans would have something to say about that. The Mexicans are descendant of Spaniards, stupid. I have never seen And I've followed a lot of politicians, and I've seen a lot of politicians do stupid stuff. I've never seen a politician self-destruct like she's done over the weekend in Munich. Because she went to Munich, it was almost like a coming out, right? You know, like she's coming out at the ball, where she's coming out to society. AOC was taken to Munich by the Democrats to unveil her to the world. This is going to be the first female Presidente de Estados Unidos. Welcome to Munich. She's gonna dazzle the world with her brilliance on foreign policy, and she looked like the dumbest person you've ever seen. The only other times where politicians have done so much damage to themselves is when there's been sex scandals, you know, things like that. And women don't really get involved in those very often in politics. And that was the most self-destructive move any female politician has ever gotten involved in, AOC. Now, the question is AOC self-aware enough to know that she just destroyed her political future? She could be in the House of Representatives for the rest of her life. She might even convince some people to put her in the Senate in New York, but she's not going to be president now. She's too stupid. She's been in Congress for many years. She was stupid when she went in, and these years that she's been in Congress, she hasn't really schooled herself. She hasn't educated herself on much of anything. And she looked like what she is, a dope. But, so either she's humiliated by it, or AOC is such a narcissist, she thinks she looked great, which shows she's out of touch with reality and mentally unfit to be president. But her presidential dreams are over. But the SAVE Act, the voter ID, it's perfectly named, because the SAVE Act requiring state-issued photo ID to vote is going to save this country. This is Tomi Lahren on Fox over the weekend. And by the way, why did Tomi Lahren have all this cosmetic surgery? Her face looks like, can hardly recognize her. Why are women like in their 30s having major facelifts? I don't get that.
Listening to the Democrats say it's racist and misogynistic. I can't think of anything more racist and misogynistic than saying that people of color cannot get an ID and proof of citizenship, and women cannot get an ID and proof of citizenship, or their marriage license, all these little things that they need to show them name change. That's the most racist and misogynistic thing I have heard, and it's coming out of the mouths of Democrats.
Yeah. See, this thing with over 70% of blacks support photo ID to vote. It's about 74% of blacks. That is a complete reversal from what it was just 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was like 74% of blacks were against it. So what's happened? Why has there been a complete reversal among the black population? Well, it's pretty simple. It's for several reasons, but the main one is the illegals. A lot of the blacks that are supporting state-issued photo ID to vote are still Democrats. And a lot of them are liberal Democrats who think they should be getting reparations. And what's happened is the Democrats have turned liberal blacks away from their party in droves by the millions, because liberal blacks are pissed off that the illegals are getting all this free crap. Money every month, food stamps, free housing, free college education for their kids, and they're not getting any of that. They're viewing that the illegals are getting the reparations that they've been promised by the Democrats for years and are owed. There's other reasons too, but that's one of the big ones. It's been a complete reversal from what this was before. Before, the vast majority of blacks were against voter ID. And the last time this came up was like 10 years ago or so, when it was seriously being discussed, although it hadn't gotten this far, voter ID to vote. This is the farthest it's ever gotten. And they would say then, well, a lot of black people don't have ID, which is absurd. Of course, everybody, it's the modern times. Everybody has ID. The only people that don't have ID are people that are not in the country legally. If you're on hold, stand by. My name's Brian. You're listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. This is where MAGA comes to talk. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I got a lot more to cover. The number to call in is toll-free, 888-465-2631, 888-465-2631. If you're on hold, stand by. We'll take a quick break and be right back.
Some parts of life are funny, some are messy, and some parts are just plain confusing. And that's what makes it real in the book, That Life Stuff. Available on Amazon, author Aaron Mullins shares poetic reflections that explore life from different angles. The highs, the stumbles, and the lessons we don't always see coming. These inspirational poems remind us that perseverance matters, that sometimes a change in scenery can shift everything, and that when we find ourselves stuck in a rut, there's always something to learn from those blunders. This isn't complicated philosophy, it's honest insight, the kind that makes you pause and see your own story a little clearer. If you've ever needed encouragement, perspective, or simply a reminder that growth often comes from the messy parts, That Life Stuff is for you. Order your copy right now on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and free with Kindle Unlimited, because life may be complicated, but wisdom doesn't have to be. That Life Stuff from author Aaron Mullins on Amazon. Is your home truly cleaned or just picked up? Amelia Maid doesn't just clean, they care. For over 10 years, this family-owned and operated company has delivered European-style maid service to Huntington Beach and all of Orange County. That means attention to detail. There's no rushing, and yes, they get into every corner and every top. Kitchens, bathrooms, bedrooms, living areas, from countertops and appliances to baseboards and shower doors. Amelia Maid handle it all. Need a move-in or move-out cleaning? No problem. Post-construction cleanup, realtor service, junk removal, or home improvement help? Amelia Maid has you covered. The same trusted team comes to your home each and every time. There's no contracts, and they're bonded as well as licensed. Fully customizable services and always free estimates. If you want reliable, high-quality cleaning at a competitive price, visit AmeliaMaid.com. That's AmeliaMaid, AmeliaMaid.com, and schedule your free estimate. AmeliaMaid.com, where clean means truly clean. Looking for more patients? ProvidersNook.com helps healthcare professionals get discovered. ProvidersNook.com's easy-to-use directory connects local patients with doctors, therapists, and clinics, so your practice stands out when it matters most. ProvidersNook.com makes healthcare easier to find. Patients quickly discover trusted providers nearby, and healthcare professionals gain more exposure, more bookings, and more growth, all in one powerful directory. Best of all, it's very affordable. Go right now to ProvidersNook.com. That's ProvidersNook.com, your premier healthcare provider directory. ProvidersNook.com.
All right, welcome back. It's the Brian Craig Show podcast. I'm Brian. Call us on hold. You hang in there. Look at this. This is a CNN poll. Liberal CNN. Look at this. Favor voter ID. All Americans, 83%. Democrats, 71% of Democrats overall favor voter ID. All Americans, 83%. And I just highlight, this is a left-leaning poll. Americans, you got to add about 10% to that, because you've got the most accurate is likely voters, then registered voters, then Americans is the most liberal and unscientific. So whatever number you see, you got to like 10 points to it. So it's 93% of Americans support voter ID. And among Democrats, at 71%. So what does that tell you? As we're in the midterm elections, people are on our side. That's why they're trying so hard to get you to talk about this, talk about that. Try to drag out the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping for as long as possible. There's a lot of distractions going on out there. And I'm not one of these guys that talks about these endless distractions. Everybody's like, oh, that's a distraction. Most of the time, when people are talking about distractions in the news, it's just a story they're not interested in, right? Anything they're not interested in is a distraction. There's a lot of things out there they're throwing out there that are distractions, because the vast majority of the American people are on our side. 71% of Democrats, according to the latest CNN poll, favor voter ID to vote. What a historic number. Who would have ever thought? That's amazing that the number is so high. In a liberal poll by a liberal news outlet, That's why I keep telling you guys, we have got the midterm election locked up if we have a massive turnout. See, they're trying to convince you that the Trump positions on things aren't popular because of these distractions they want to bring up. They know between voter ID and a massive turnout, we're not only going to win, we're going to have a larger majority. And a lot of people say, well, what about these little elections that have been going on? Low voter turnout, special elections, no voter turnout. If we have a large mass voter turnout, we're going to win because we've got even the majority of Democrats on our side on one of the most controversial issues, which is voter ID to vote. That is one of the most controversial issues. It's come up many times over the years. Every time it comes up, it's very divisive, but it's not that divisive now, is it? I never would have thought something like this would have happened. Now, if you're new to my program, make sure that you follow and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on, all right? The Brian Craig Show podcast is available wherever you get podcast. The live video version is on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, search for The Brian Craig Show, I'll pop up. But if you want to just catch the audio version, I'm on all podcast platforms. And if you go back in time and listen, you can relive the entire first campaign of Trump and the first term of Trump all the way until today. But this poll from CNN is amazing because I keep hearing these fake news polls out there. Oh, Trump's at 34. I saw one today. Really? Then explain this to me. If Trump is at 34%, why do 71% support his major issue that he's pushing for right now, voter ID, to vote? Right? According to the liberal CNN poll. It doesn't compute, does it? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Brian. Good afternoon. This is Nick
hey,
out
Nick.
of Baltimore.
What's up, Nick?
Hey, listen, that poll is a very important poll. It really shows yes, it is huge. And I wanted to speak briefly about the Nancy Guthrie situation as it pertains to Donald Trump and the border policy. You know, this really speaks to what Donald Trump's been talking about. You know, they let in between 11 or 12 million to 20 million illegal aliens. We don't know where they came from. We don't know their backgrounds. We don't know anything about them. And now this. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, who knows? This may be connected to that type of situation.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
maybe.
You know, it's something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, something's happening.
You know.
Yeah. You know, this poll here from CNN, the significance of it, it's not really being reported. I know they mentioned it on CNN. But if we have 71% supporting President Trump's most controversial issue out there right now, that really tells you where the heart, mind, and pulse of the American people are. They're with MAGA, not with Schumer.
Exactly. And the Democrats are just turning their backs on regular Americans, saying, we don't care what you want. We know what you voted for. We disagree with it, and we're going to go against it. And I'll tell you what, it's to their detriment.
That's right.
It is going to destroy the Democrat Party. And one more thing about AOC and her appearance in Munich. You know, she really showed how lacking she is in terms of the knowledge of geopolitics.
Yeah.
And even basic geography.
Exactly.
She's an idiot.
Yeah, she had no idea where on the map Venezuela is.
Exactly. And this is what they hold up as the future of the Democrat Party, between her, Newsom, and Kamala.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on.
Dumber than Kamala.
Yeah.
Yeah, dumber than Kamala.
I mean, it's just,
yeah.
It really is. It really is. Talk about word salad. I mean, it was insulting. I mean, a lack of intelligence. Anyway, great podcast, and thanks for the broadcast.
Appreciate the call. All right. The rest of you on hold, hang in there just for a moment. If you'd like to support my content, become a Patreon supporter. There's a link in the description to the episode to my Patreon page. If you become a Patreon supporter, you get access to commercial-free editions of all my podcast episodes and exclusive live streams, okay, for Patreon supporters only. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, this is Sean from Massachusetts.
Hey, Sean, what's up?
Happy President's Day.
President's Day.
Nick is a great caller. He's my favorite caller. I love listening to Nick. He's a great guy. I want to say that. This has been great. We have such an overwhelming positivity going on here. We have choices. I mean, look at our choices on deck. You know, Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance. I mean, the choices. That's our problem. Is we have too many great choices, and it's overwhelming. We get the majority of Americans that are with Trump on one of the very most important issues. I mean, he's just pulling up everywhere, and even the left-leaning polls, and it's just amazing to see how much momentum he's gaining. And of course, the left's going to throw in all these side stories out, every left and right. This is what they do: it's duck and cover, because they can't face reality, and they'll never get their act together. And you know, when you see what happened in Germany, it goes to show you the contrast of just two sides. I mean,
that's right.
Common sense, logic, and just doing the right thing as a disorganized delusions. Because
right.
AOC looked pathetic. She could not.
Now, do you think that AOC realizes how dumb she looked, or is she so full of herself that she doesn't realize it? Is she self-aware enough to know she humiliated herself through her stupidity?
She's done. Well, the problem is that she's done this so many times. Is she ever going to learn?
Not at this level. You know, I mean, she's being mocked around the world. Hey, listen, I appreciate the call. Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say. Oh, by the way, if you become a top Patreon supporter, you get your name up on the screen, and you get a live on-air thank you shout-out on every episode. So the names you'll hear now are my top Patreon supporters. I want to thank SFjr, Christine, ETW, Chuck, Pamela, Nick, who was just on the phone, Wesley, Doris, Heather, David, Maria in Texas, Alice, LeeZep, Shawna, George, Brandon, John, Frank, Dale, Tina, David, Laura, Rob, Wes, Sue, Janice, Teresa, Irene, Doris, and Rick. These are my top Patreon supporters. Again, there's a direct link to my Patreon page in the description of this episode on whatever platform you're listening on. Well, listen, guys, thanks for tuning in. My name's Brian Craig. This is the Brian Craig Show podcast, where MAGA comes to talk. I will talk to you next time. Take care.